and I would remind us that we're running about 15 minutes late, and I'm anxious to accommodate all members. So I move on to the next question in the name of Deputy Niamh Smith, and I understand, Minister, you're taking that with question 558.
Thank you, Laskin. Firstly, to welcome you back, Minister. It is great to see you here, and wish you speedy recovery. As my question states, it's in relation to, of course, the very contentious issue of EirGrid and the recent decision by An Bord Pleanála to grant the pylons in the east of the island, I suppose, which currently affects Cavan, Monaghan, Meath, my colleagues here from Meath as well, affects the area, and of course there's huge opposition to that. So my question really is to ask if you could make a statement on the overall cost of the project to the state. Very tight. 2 minutes, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Smith. I propose to take questions number 40 and 558 together. EirGrid estimates that the cost of constructing the proposed North South Interconnector will be €286 million. €180 million of this will be incurred in Ireland, and the remaining €106 million being incurred in Northern Ireland. The proposed interconnector is a critical piece of energy infrastructure for the benefit of all people on the island of Ireland. Last November, Minister Simon Hamilton, the Minister for the Economy in Northern Ireland, and I confirmed our joint commitment to the ongoing development of a single electricity market. The market arrangements will be in place in 2018, yielding benefits for electricity customers north and south. The UK White Paper published on Thursday noted that the UK is considering all options on the UK's future relationship with the EU on energy, in particular to avoid disruption of the single electricity market operating across the island of Ireland. The North South Interconnector, which will further support the single electricity market and lower costs for consumers, has received planning permission in Ireland and is in the planning process in Northern Ireland. This is a vital project to ensure the security of supply in Northern Ireland, a further example of the interdependence of our energy systems. The interconnector will enhance competitiveness, bolster security of supply and remove a key barrier to the efficient operation of the electricity system across the island of Ireland. It is envisaged to bring initial savings of €20 million per year, rising to €40 to €60 million each year by 2030, shared between Ireland and Northern Ireland. Such cost savings ensure benefits for every home and business in the state, improving the competitiveness of business and household disposable incomes of our citizens. On this basis, I believe the proposed investment in the electricity infrastructure to be a sound one. The costs of the development of the North-South Interconnector are not borne by the Irish Exchequer. The project will be funded in the same way as other electricity and gas grid investments are paid for. These costs are approved by the regulator and charged by EirGrid, ESB Networks and Gas Networks Ireland to energy supply companies. The energy supply companies generally include these costs in customer bills.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Niamh Smith, supplementary.
Minister, at an overall cost of €286 million, I would suggest to you that it would be prudent of you and the Government to put on hold the capital phase of this project until we know the impact of Brexit and the impact that that will have on the North-South Interconnector, both in terms of its financing and its viability. The project, as it's been presented, as a key part of the European Union electricity grid, and if the UK is no longer part of that union, what implications will that have on this project? We are still reading various contradictory reports on the possible reintroduction of a hard border, and it's looking very much like we will have a hard border. Then there are questions surrounding the transfer of goods and services to the UK and through the UK and to other European countries, and the potential for associated tariffs is unclear. This, coupled with the concerns and opposition to the project, Minister, give way for you to, at this stage, put on hold this project. As I said, €286 million is a phenomenal amount of state funds, and there is huge opposition to this at the moment. And I would like to thank you too for agreeing to the meeting of the anti-pylon groups both in Monaghan, Cavan and Meath tomorrow. But at the end of the day, the people really want to see it underground. That's the bottom line with people at this stage. But in light of Brexit, which this has been going on for the last 10 years, but in light of Brexit, which is the most recent, I suppose, in current affairs, we need to put this on hold.
A couple of things. First of all, Deputy Smith, I've heard what you said, but I'm a bit surprised that you're questioning whether we need the interconnector or not. Because from listening to people, and I'll hear them tomorrow morning, and I'm looking forward to meeting with the groups tomorrow morning, because I think there has been, across the board, seemingly to the best of my knowledge, agreement that we need an interconnector. Maybe how we connect it may be an issue for debate, but that the interconnector itself is needed. Specifically focusing on the question, which I think is a very valid question in relation to Brexit and the implications of that. The governance framework for the all-island single electricity market is based on legislation adopted by the Oireachtas and by the British Parliament. It's not based on EU law. The existing energy trading and interconnection arrangements between Ireland and the UK, ensuring the continuity of mutually dependent energy arrangements, is based on cooperation and agreement between both Ireland and the UK. So it is not dependent on Brexit or whether Ireland is inside or outside the European Union. In fact, at the moment, I think Norway are in the process of building an interconnector with the UK, and of course Norway is outside the European Union as well.
Yeah. Short supplementary. Because
yeah, I don't think there's any dispute there is an agreement that there is a need for this. However, why don't we look at this situation with Brexit as an opportunity? We attended a public meeting with over 300 people at it about 2 weeks ago. People who are actually living in fear of what this will mean for their homes, for their lives, for their young children coming along who maybe propose to live in the area. We will see a mass exodus of young people in the area if this is to continue. And I'm asking you, Minister, to see this as an opportunity to either underground or at the moment put the project on hold.
As there are two questions in one, there's additional time. I'm calling on Deputy Shane Cassells and first supplementary. And Minister, you can give a composite answer.
Thanks very much, Ciancórla, for that. And Minister, you're right.
Hold on a minute. This is not favouritism. There are two questions in one, so there's double the time, and you will have about 18 minutes, Deputy Kelly. Deputy.
Thank you very much, Las Ciancórla. And the Minister is right. It's how we provide the connection is the debate. And I know this is my third time now in the Chamber actually discussing this with you. And all I want to simply know, Minister, is would you accept the figures that have been put forward by NEPP in respect of how much it would cost to underground? Because that has been a huge debating point. And would you accept those figures that have been put forward, that it is viable, and that also in the 10 years since this project has been first proposed, that the actual logistics of providing this is not a threat to security of supply, but is very, very much in line with the practice that is going on continental Europe now at this very moment in time?
Deputy Byrne.
Yeah, and I won't delay the House. Minister, to say that this is not related to Brexit or to the European to say this is not related to Brexit or to the European Union is totally misleading and disingenuous, Minister, because, as you know, this is a project of common interest as designated by the European Commission. So it clearly has strong European ties and European links, regardless of the legislation. Now, I would say to you, secondly, Minister, I think you, as Minister, and EirGrid, as the semi-state body here, have to have regard to the fact that it is now clear that a majority of Dáil Éireann do not support this particular project in the way that it is envisaged. So how you can decide as Minister to stand over that when you know clearly that the Dáil does not support this? Fianna Fáil has been extremely clear on this, is extremely clear on this. We want this underground. Sinn Féin, I believe, are in the same position. Lots of your own Cabinet colleague, Deputy Doherty, is in the same position. So clearly there is no political support. So how can this happen? Now, at the very least, Minister, I think you need to go and have another study on this, a proper study, independent international, to examine the merits of putting this underground.
Minister, final response.
Just look, I'm told that the only feasible way to underground a circuit of with 1,500 megawatt capacity over a distance of 138 kilometres is to use a specialised high voltage direct current and not AC technology with the conversion equipment at either end. For a DC link to act reliably with a synchronous network, it would be necessary to develop new and complex control systems that have not been tried before in order to replicate the functionality of an AC interconnector. So that what I'm told is that it is not the same as undergrounding in relation to some other projects. Now, the example that has been given in the past is the Aachen to Liège project. And there was undergrounding, but it was on a much shorter distance with a lower capacity. And actually, if you look at the cost of that particular project, and based on the bigger scale that is required here, the DC undergrounding cable option there would cost in the region of €992 million, which is significantly higher than what is even projected here. And the argument is made by EirGrid that it's based on the research that they have, that it's 3 times more expensive to underground. But look, I'm meeting with NEPP in the morning. I listen to what they have to say. I'm quite willing to hear what people have to say, but I think it is important for people to understand that
Minister.
There is a legal case already lodged with the courts. There is a planning process still ongoing in relation to that, and I have to be conscious of both of those issues.
The Minister and others to be reasonable as well. Deputy Alan Kelly, number.